Today's episode of Royally Obsessed is brought to you by the California Avocado Commission. California avocados are in season from right now through the end of summer. They're grown locally by California farmers who nurture the avocados and land every step of the way with uncompromising dedication to quality and freshness.
There's nothing quite like a perfectly ripe avocado. It's delicious. And California avocados are locally and responsibly grown and picked at the peak of their season, resulting in fruit that is fresh and consistent in taste and texture.
And did you know that the Hass avocado, the most common variety that you know and love, is a California native and was first cultivated in Southern California? Be sure to look for California on the label to ensure you are getting avocados grown close to home. From family meals to grabbing a snack on the go, incorporate California avocados into your dishes for dynamic flavors and texture.
I love avocados. I'm actually eating it in my lunch salad right now. That's right next to me here. I'm holding it up.
Oh my gosh.
Delicious.
Cox can help make your home smarter and your life easier. Now you can use your Contour voice remote to connect to your home life cameras so you can view them right on your TV screen using simple voice commands. That makes it easy to keep tabs on what's happening around your home right from your couch. Need to keep an eye on the kids when they're playing outside? Just say, "Show me my backyard camera" into your Cox voice remote and watch them while you're in the house. And if you're waiting for a delivery and want to make sure it's there on time, no problem. Just say, "Show me driveway camera" to check on it with your Home Life HD cameras on the TV screen while you go about your day. When you live in a home powered by Cox Internet, you can stay connected to what matters and let Cox take care of the rest. To learn more about all the benefits of your connected home, visit cox.com/thisishome today.
Please rise for their majesties of Royally Obsessed, the podcast for all things royals.
Stand by! 3 cheers for Her Majesty, the Queen!
Welcome back to Royally Obsessed. I'm Roberta.
And I'm Rachel.
And it's time for your weekly update on all the royal news you need to know. A couple of reminders, as always, before we dive in. Follow us on Instagram at Royally Obsessed Podcast. You can also join the Facebook group, Royally Obsessed. You can subscribe to the podcast and leave us a royal rating, pretty please. Also, send us an email at info@gallerypodcasts with an S on the end, .com.
Rachel, I feel like we need to explain that. I'm good. It's early, though. So we are changing the recording time to be really up to the minute. There's so much royals breaking news these days. So it's early. It's 9 a.m. on Wednesday before this episode comes out.
But we still have our Irish coffee.
Yes, we're jumping ahead to the royal refreshment.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day. Yes, I know. It's I didn't wear green. I feel disappointed in myself.
Me either. Oh no. I'll have to change later.
Yeah, I'm going to change. My brain wasn't working as, right when I got up about when I was getting dressed. But anyways, I'm doing good. I think that it's so wild to think that really this is kind of the week of this is like the 1-year anniversary of the pandemic for us.
I know. It's felt like, decades and also just gone by so fast because I haven't really done that much.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I know. But how do you feel about it?
It's weird. I looked back at my camera roll to see 1 year ago and I was at medieval times.
Oh my gosh, I remember when you did that.
What if people were eating turkey legs with their hands? What? It just is crazy to think about. It's honestly mind-blowing. What about you? Have you done that? Looked back at a year ago?
The funny thing is my camera roll would have me at Celine Dion. I went and saw a Celine Dion concert at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. And I remember, I think that was actually on the cusp of going into March. It was a week before everything shut down. But it was just, I remember being is this okay? And it was before all the kind of mask mandates and that information is we're just belting it out. Singing seems like the worst COVID spreader at the time.
Right.
But,
it's looking back at a parallel universe. It's how did we do those things in another time?
And the fear was there. I remember the fear was a little bit in the background, but we weren't fully
sizzling in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember also what's funny is around this time toward the end of March, I'm taking pictures of Zoom calls and happy hours and stuff and being this is so fun and cute. And look at all my friends on the screen in a grid or look at our coworkers having a little happy hour. And now it's please don't invite me to another Zoom happy hour.
I know. Well, I think the hard part was that it just felt so temporary at the time. So it was like kind of this fun, I feel like there was a great piece actually on Pure Wow that Jenny, our coworker, wrote, just saying how, in the beginning it was kind of like a reprieve from the rush of getting on the subway and, the stress of getting to the office, and you kind of had a chance to kind of just cuddle up at home, but then just the reality of it really hit.
Yeah.
So anyways, but lots to get into this episode. More fallout from the Oprah interview as we expected and predicted. I think I'm still in a very big phase of where do we go from here? I mean, I think we're all a little bit, everyone seems to be moving forward, Harry and Meghan included, but I feel like there's just a lot to still process.
I know. I still feel like we need to hear a lot more from the royals. Yeah. So we'll get into that.
Exactly. We also were talking about Mother's Day in the UK. There were so many tributes, including an update about August, baby August, who I feel like has kind of been lost in the shuffle of things. We're continuing to kind of yearn for updates from Princess Eugenie, and an update, finally, a good update on Prince Philip's health. That and so much more coming up. But first, as Roberta sort of teased.
And now it's time for the weekly royal cocktail.
A toast.
Cheers.
What are you sipping today, Roberta?
I have some iced coffee. I should have done what you did, which was...
I just did a little splash of whiskey in my coffee because it's so early, but I made it Irish because of St. Patty's.
And we're toasting to Pippa Middleton's baby news.
Cheers. More baby news. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Clink, clink. That was that was a really happy surprise to hear. Her second kid, a daughter, Grace Elizabeth Jane, arrived on March 15th.
I love that name, by the way. Do you, it's I feel like it's modern, but also kind of regal. Like Elizabeth feels, Jane is, I love the name Jane Austen.
And it's Kate's middle name. So it's nice. I believe that it's likely a nod to her sister more than I know people are saying it's also a nod to Queen Elizabeth. But I feel like it's more about Kate, I think. And, Kate and William are said to be overjoyed at the news, which I don't know. I just feel like it's very exciting to me. I also just think about the dichotomy of Harry and Meghan expecting and, they're also having a girl and sort of having that sort of parallel going on. But I did think also it was interesting that Pippa delivered at the Lindo wing. I was curious to kind of just understand that because obviously it's a different treatment than what Kate and William receive, when they've had their, royal babies there. But I feel like I was reading up on it. And did you know that you can get a celebratory high tea with optional champagne when you have a baby? That was not in my delivery package.
Oh my God. I knew it was swanky, but I did not know you could get a high tea package.
Yeah. Isn't that kind of cool? Yeah.
Hysterical.
I thought that was great. It's also, I think around 5,900 pounds for the first 24 hours of an overnight stay there. So and that's for a standard room. So not even the fancy setup.
Wow. So. It's got to be so incredibly lush and nice and amazing. I'm waiting for James Middleton to say something on Instagram because he's active on Instagram.
I love him on Instagram. I think of you every time he posts.
I love when didn't he do the pink champagne when Charlotte was born?
Oh, I don't remember.
I think he did.
I need to
look back. Really cute. So hopefully we'll see some of that.
And Ella.co is a great follow too because he's kind of cross-referencing himself. Anyways, all right, moving on.
We had a wonderful reader email from Sonia this week. We shortened it here for time's sake, but I'm going to read some snippets of it. She said, "Dear Rachel and Roberta, I hope you've both had time to digest the interview." She continues, "The bridesmaid dress debacle is infuriating, the skin tone topic repulsive, but the revelation that Meghan wanted to end her life and there was nothing the firm could do about it because she wasn't a paid employee. I wish Oprah would have pushed for an explanation as to what Harry did after his wife went to the firm for help and they said no. How could the new Fab Four's patronage of the charity Heads Together let this happen? The hypocrisy of lending support to a mental health organization while one of their own is suffering, in addition to Prince William speaking out against racism in the football leagues, is rich." She said also, "I'm glad to see Piers Morgan has moved on to be alone with his opinions. Cretin." And she continued, "Pour yourselves a hefty royal cocktail and here's to your own mental health getting through your upcoming shows. Thank you for providing a safe zone while we try comprehending this maelstrom. Your faithful minion, Sonia."
Aw.
I know.
It is true. It's a lot. I mean, kind of, thinking about this 24 hours a day is kind of how it's felt, right? We're really in the thick of all of the coverage always.
I feel like You and I have also just outside of these recordings have leaned on each other a lot for support. I know I have. And
same.
It's heavy stuff. Like
it really is
very heavy, and it's really tough to process, and we still are working through a lot of it, I think. And we will talk about it here, and I feel like this is such a great outlet to talk about it. So
yeah, definitely. I did want to say, just at the mention of Piers Morgan, that we did find out that Meghan herself wrote to ITV to file a complaint that came out, and her reason for that was just because for anyone struggling with mental health issues, watching what he was saying, it's just not okay. So good for her for writing in. But
I know. Now I'm thinking too that like ITV saw that and they were like, okay, either you're fired or you say you quit. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that at that point there was no other option for him. So
yeah, exactly.
Riddance.
And talk about a maelstrom. It's like
Sonia called him a cretin.
It's so good. All right. Well, in royal history.
And now, this week in royal history.
This is sort of a, controversy. I feel like, bringing up Prince Andrew, but this is a double, double whammy, I guess you could say, in that the Duke and Duchess of York, they got engaged March 19th, 1986. And then 6 years later, they announced their separation on March 19th, 1992. So it was exactly 6 years to the date of their engagement announcement, which I thought was crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
Andrew actually proposed to Fergie when he was 26 years old, and Fergie was a mere 5 months older than Andrew. So they were much more in line in terms of their ages. But I think that, I don't know if you had a chance to watch any snippets of the engagement interview. I love that we have this kind of archive of footage to go back to, because the engagement interviews are so unique to each person. But their dynamic is particularly perplexing because it's kind of jokey and bantery, but like almost like they're like answering the questions, but then being like, heh, 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 and like eye rolling to each other. Like, it's very awkward. I watched
Carson and I felt so awkward watching this because the folded arms, he's like man spreading and he has his arms folded across his chest. And it's almost like way too casual. Like, it just went in the wrong direction with that. Like, I think he was trying to be relatable. I don't know, but it is like really cringy at a lot of points. He also like talks over her so much. He like I don't know. It felt really weird. And comparing it to the Diana and Charles interview, I'm like, which one is worse? I think that this one is. Like, I think that this is more cringy.
Exactly. And I just even think some of the questions, like, and I may be reading into this, but where the interview says there were no fears using the word settling down. And Andrew said, what do you mean settling down? And I will acknowledge that he's asking for clarity on the question and recovers by saying, I don't see there's anything settling in it. So nice play. But it's just funny, like, knowing what we know now, obviously, about his ties to Jeffrey Epstein and like how much was going on with him. I mean, just his sort of, I just think that it's very interesting what was going on during those years.
Also, like, props to Fergie, because I think that she realizes how weird he's being in this interview and kind of tries to recover from it. Like, she adds like, we're a good team, and like is trying to make it like more romantic and cute, which is what the interviewer obviously wants. Like, he's like, this is an engagement interview. We want you guys to be like this cute lovey-dovey couple. And he's so not, and she kind of saves them for a little bit.
She does, like, her joking nature.
I respected her role in that, yeah.
Because it's like where you need to see the video, because her eyes kind of bug out a few times, being like, oh, like she definitely keeps it light when he's being so like a little just awkward.
Like almost like inappropriate, like nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Yes. And it's like, ew, stop.
That's exactly how I felt, where it was like, that's what I mean, where it's like the nudge, nudge. Yeah.
Yeah.
But one particular clip that stood out from their interview is a moment when actually Princess Diana is mentioned.
Have you, in the course of this rather last difficult month or so, had advice from the Princess of Wales, who went through much the same thing again?
The Princess of Wales and I are extremely good friends, and we naturally talk about a lot of different subjects.
Like dealing with the media?
Lots of different subjects.
Yes, I think that's probably the best way of answering that. I mean,
we're very, very good friends.
There are so many differing ideas about how to handle yourself that you can't take one person's advice all the time.
Although there is no one better than the Princess of Wales.
Fergie kind of sweeps in and saves it. And I do think that is a clip where even listening to it, you need to see his body language when he's talking about it. But he almost comes across like immediately stiffens at the mention of Princess Diana. And I'm so curious sort of the background of that, if there were like if there was a competitive nature with him, you know, in the shadow of Prince Charles, his older brother. But Fergie is immediately defensive of Princess Diana.
Yeah. And he even says like, well, you can't lean on one person. She's like, no, she is the best person to lean on. And it's like, oh, wow. Okay. So there's just, there's definitely tension there for
a lot to unpack. But I also just the reference of like the media and what she was clearly dealing with was very much on the minds of people were noticing it. And this was back in 1986. So anyways, fast forward, we know that they went on to marry July 23rd, 1986. They announced their separation exactly 6 years later on March 19th, 1992. As I said, Fergie was actually the one that initiated the formal separation. And this is where it's also kind of, it just in the context of what's going on today, it's just interesting to hear what she actually said. She said it was an unusually personal statement. And it said, in view of the media speculation, which the Queen finds especially undesirable during the general election campaign, Her Majesty is issuing the following statement. She then goes on to talk about Fergie's lawyers and being the ones that were responsible for this kind of kicking off, and ends with, the Queen hopes that the media will spare the Duke and Duchess of York and their children any intrusion. So just the idea, like, it's just a simple statement. That's all I just can't help but think of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Like, why couldn't something along those lines have been said with everything that Meghan and Harry endured?
I found it also astounding, the parallels. So Fergie did an interview with Oprah after the separation. I thought that was really interesting because YouTube, like serves you up all these videos that relate to what you're just watching. So I was watching the engagement interview and then that one came up and I was watching her interview with Oprah and she talks about being so unhappy. She said the press are so incredibly cruel, abusive, and invasive. And it just feels like it's like everything that Meghan and Harry were saying. And she talks about Diana and she relates her story to that. And it sounds like Diana is still alive at this point. This was 1996. And that they were still friends, but not as close as they used to be. I think they had
they had a falling out.
Yeah, they had a falling out. So, but it was so interesting to think that she sat down with Oprah as well and did. And the interview is really good. I mean, Oprah's incredible, as we've said many times. It's good to watch. So
yeah. And I do want to quickly mention, just because I mean, any time bring up Prince Andrew, it just feels like I can't believe the different levels of treatment in terms of when you're comparing what his experience is, what he's kind of put the royal family through, which is awful. I mean, he stepped back as a senior royal and with all of his ties to Jeffrey Epstein, and that's still unfolding. We don't hear about that as often as we hear about Meghan and Harry, which is wild. But just also the comparison, like Prince Harry's military honors were stripped, but Andrew's weren't. And he's also no longer a working royal. The internal investigation into bullying claims that were, is playing out as we speak in relation to Meghan. And there's been no internal investigation or acknowledgement of that of Andrew's actions, which are appalling. And, even just the fact that Andrew still has royal security to the tune of, what I read was £300,000 a year is what they cover for him.
That's sickening. I keep thinking back to that he's the favorite, though. That's what I keep thinking
from The Crown.
Back to. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that he's like the favorite child and that he will be protected. But it's mind-blowing that there's been so much talk about investigating these 3-year-old bullying claims. Yeah, and then there's not anything about him. It just is not right. It's not right.
But it is fascinating to us, to the world, that Fergie and Andrew continue to cohabitate. And Fergie has explained it away, saying we are one of the best examples of joint parenting, but she stood by him through all of this and that incredibly damning interview. So it's fascinating.
It is. Being an East Coaster, it's hard to admit this, but can we just take a moment to talk about how beautiful California is? I mean, the beaches, the weather, the overall vibe. It's also inviting.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't agree more. And that's why we're so excited to tell you about our new sponsor, the California Avocado Commission. Did you know that the Hass avocado everyone knows and loves originated in Southern California?
I do now. They are grown locally by California farmers who nurture the avocados and land every step of the way with uncompromising dedication to quality and freshness.
Roberta, I have to tell you, Finn is such a picky eater, but the one thing he will eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner is avocado toast. But it's my one gourmet moment as a parent is the fact that he likes avocados.
Finn and I have that in common.
So be sure to look for California on the label to ensure you are getting avocados grown close to home. From family meals to grabbing a snack on the go, incorporate California avocados into your dishes for dynamic flavors and texture.
Moving on, our first update. We had a couple updates actually from Prince William and Kate and the Queen. So we'll get into that first. Prince William. So he was asked at an event last week about the interview, and he said he has not spoken to Harry since, but he will do. And he also said, my family is very much not racist. So on the fly, he was walking, point A to point B. He obviously feels like Kensington Palace probably told the reporters not to ask anything, and they still shouted out questions. It doesn't feel rehearsed at all. But I'm curious, what were your initial thoughts about this?
I was just like, my heart sank because I was just like, come on, William. Like, why would that be anything that you would say? I think obviously we want a response, but I think no response would have been better than that. I think if he was going to give a response, like do something bold and be like, we're reflecting, we're thinking, we're processing, we're learning. We love Meghan and Harry and we desperately want to be there for them. And that is what matters most. And
actively anti-racist. I think that's been a lot of what we've, all learned over this past year. And just, you can't say something on the fly like this. Like, I think that's what's bothering me the most is that they have an entire team of comms people and they couldn't come up with something better than this.
I think he let his anger show. You know what I mean? I think that he couldn't hold in his anger. And so he released that, he threw that kind of statement over the back of his shoulder as he was walking by. And then you got the headlines that, like, his quote, royal family, not a racist family. It just was awful.
Yeah, it was bad. I was kind of infuriated by the fact that he hasn't reached out to them when the things that have been put forth by the Sussexes, that Meghan was struggling, she was suicidal, she was told not to get help for her mental health issues, and the fact that, they had endured some racist comments from the family and a lot more from the press. And that he hasn't reached out. It's like, if you really were doing something, you would have talked to them by now, right? Like, that's what I feel like, is that it's like, how after 6 days of knowing what's been said, have you not contacted them?
The fact that he acknowledged that publicly was just unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to Gayle King. So Gayle King gave us an update on CBS this morning.
Well, I'm not trying to break news, but I did actually call them to see how they were feeling. And it's true, Harry has talked to his brother and he has talked to his father, too. The word I was given was that those conversations were not productive, but they are glad that they have at least started a conversation. And I think what is still upsetting to them is the palace keeps saying they want to work it out privately, but yet they believe these false stories are coming out that are very disparaging against Meghan still. No one in the royal family has talked to Meghan yet. At this particular time. And I think it's frustrating for them to see that it's a racial conversation about the royal family when all they wanted all along was for the royals to intervene and tell the press to stop with the unfair, inaccurate, false stories that definitely have a racial slant. And until you can acknowledge that, I think it's going to be hard to move forward. But they both want to move forward with this. And they both want, they want healing in this family. At the end of the day, that is Harry's family.
So what's interesting is Gayle King is now and CBS have become like the spokesperson for the Sussexes in this. And I find it extremely hypocritical when people are criticizing that, because we've heard a lot of criticism of the Sussexes and them telling, why are they giving, these scoops or these leaks to an American TV company? But isn't that what the royal family is doing with the tabloids? Like, I don't get how they can't see that that's the same. And the Sussexes need a way to get their side of the story out there. And so I think that this is their best option. So they've definitely chosen CBS as that mouthpiece. I think Gayle King summed it up perfectly. She said, Houston, we have a problem. I mean, I cannot believe that no one has reached out to Meghan yet. I think that that's what's most astounding about all of this. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, going back to William's statement, I think that him saying that the royal family is not a racist family is missing the point of this conversation. It's like, I think it's easy to get defensive, right? But I think that that's not the right reaction here. They need to look at how they can heal together but also take those words that Meghan and Harry shared to heart, if that makes sense, where racism is occurring and it's subtle and overt. And I think that it's more that they need to reflect on that versus just say blanket statement that they're not. It's sort of deny.
Yeah.
It goes back to sort of everything that we've been talking about for the past year with like everything that happened with the Black Lives Matter movement last June. I just feel like denying its existence is not the solution. Does that make sense?
Right. Show us you're actively working toward being better.
Yeah.
Like show us that you acknowledge that that's a thing that has occurred, and
because we all see it. I mean, it's very clear
Right.
that it's happened. And so to say it's like it's not to say that I'm not even saying it's not that I'm sure William feels that to a certain extent, but it's that there needs to be sort of an open conversation that helps everyone learn from what's happened.
No, I think that's, and it's upsetting that, Gayle King says like, not only have they not reached out to Meghan, but the conversations were unproductive. Harry's getting nowhere with them. And I think that that's what's hard is that, he's already heard William say we're very much not a racist family, which is denying what Harry told Oprah on camera, that this is someone in my family asked about how dark Archie's skin would be when he was born. So I don't know. But Gayle King goes on to say that Meghan has the receipts of everything. Her friend and actress Janina Gavankar also went on ITV this week and backed this up. She said that there were texts and emails from Meghan that are evidence for everything that she said on the interview. So she also says she watched the Oprah special with them, and the whole family and staff knew about Meghan's mental health struggles, which I think is a pretty big bombshell that has not been talked about very much, in that they all knew and did nothing. And I think, not just the family, but there's an entire team of staff dedicated to them, and yet no one was able to kind of give them the help or tell them what the right thing to do was. They were actually told not to get help. So I think or Meghan was told, interestingly, Janina, and this interview with ITV is very tense, because she comes on and she's like, I obviously can't speak for Harry and Meghan, but the interviewers really probe her about it and it gets heated. But she says she's actually glad the palace is investigating the bullying accusations, because it'll shed light on how the Sussexes have been wronged in all of this, which I think is just even more of a testament to how Meghan has every bit of evidence she needs. Of course she has screenshots about this. Of course she has, emails from her staff telling her not to go get help for her thoughts of depression and suicide. Like, she has the evidence, and if Buckingham Palace is going to hire an external law firm to investigate it, well, go ahead, because look what's going to come out. It's that the staff were not. So,
well, she even mentioned in the Oprah interview how it makes sense that she would have that backup, because she's used to having like a union when she was an actor where you did kind of, if something was playing out that was not right, you document. I think most of us know that. I did want to say that so many celebrities keep stepping up, and I in particular really liked what Michelle Obama said, where she said the thing that I hope for and the thing that I think about is that that this first and foremost is a family, and I pray for forgiveness and healing for them so that they can use this as a teachable moment for us all. And I think that is a really nice summation, because that is so much of what I'm looking for. Like, I want to see them learning from this and growing from this in real time.
Yeah. She also mentions not making public service about yourself. And I kind of think it's not a mean criticism of the Sussexes, but I do think it's important for them to remember, like, the family drama is not what this is it's taking away from what they're doing. And I think that as long as the drama is dragged out, it's not going to look good. It's not going to look good for them, and it's going to distract from their work, which I think is so important. They have made a lot of moves with their charities.
Yeah, they're making so many moves. This interview ended, and they've been really busy.
They've had new hires. So, yeah, but I think Michelle Obama is kind of like, guys, get your shit together, because we need to move on.
When they go low, we go high.
Yes, love it.
Imagine being able to detangle, dry, and style with one tool. Just in time for back to school. The Infinity Pro by Conair with the Knot Doctor all-in-one dryer brushes do it all for frizz-free salon results at home. The pink smoothing brush has 136 Flexolite bristles for painless detangling and 1,000 watts of high-performance power for smooth, shiny results. And the purple large oval dryer brush creates glam waves and comes with a bonus volumizing attachment for added lift and volume at the roots. The all-in-one dryer brushes are perfect for all hair types with 3 heat settings for customized styling and frizz-fighting technology that leaves hair shiny and manageable. These styling essentials are your prescription for salon results at home. Go to Conair.com to get your Infinity Pro by Conair with the Knot Doctor all-in-one dryer brush or all-in-one smoothing dryer brush now.
Next up, Kate visits the Sarah Everard Memorial. So if you haven't heard this story, I'm sure you have by now, but quick summary. On the evening of March 3rd, Sarah Everard was walking home from a friend's house. She was walking from Clapham to Brixton in London. She was wearing a bright colored jacket. She had a mask. She talked to her boyfriend on the phone. She walked by CCTV cameras. She disappeared that night. She was missing on March 3rd. Police confirmed that remains were found over 50 miles from where she was last seen and that those belonged to Everard. And a police officer has now been charged with her kidnapping and murder. So this has really kind of roiled London. People on social media have shared stories about how unsafe they feel walking home at night, about women have shared stories about assault, and it's intense. It's becoming a really big issue for London and the rest of the world. I feel like people from all over the globe are chiming in about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like especially I was kind of reading about it a lot Saturday night right before bed, and just also the idea that it was a police officer that was the one responsible, right. And then the Scotland Yard's response that they would up the police presence to help women feel safe. That really struck a nerve for me, where I was just like, that doesn't make me feel safe with everything that has obviously happened here. But anyways, yeah.
So Kate attended the memorial site and she laid daffodils. She was there about 5 minutes and was caught on camera, news cameras. Sky TV's Thomas Newton said, "Today I went and paid my respects to Sarah Everard. While I was there, the Duchess of Cambridge did the same. It was serendipity that meant that HRH and I were there at the same moment. An attempt to find conspiracy in her motives is grotesque." A lot of people said, she was there without a mask. She walked right in front of the news cameras. Her team knew this was an opportune moment to kind of shift the narrative away from Meghan and Harry and the Oprah interview and do a good thing. But it's interesting that the royal family wouldn't particularly want her actually showing up.
That's how I feel. I think that just some other, sort of devil's advocate opinions on this is, yes, she wasn't wearing a mask, or no, she wasn't wearing a mask, but I think that they would have foreseen that narrative, that it's like, oh, she's trying to change the press about her and William right now by showing up to this. I think that to say that this was super calculated feels off to me, because I think that the potential for an appearance like this to backfire would have been large. Exactly. And they would have thought about that.
They also released a statement that said, yes, Kate was there. She wanted to pay her respects to the family and to Sarah. She remembers what it was like to walk around London at night before she was married.
That resonates a lot personally, right? For you too, I'm sure. It's just like all women.
Definitely. The catcalling, I just think that yeah. So, and this, her appearance, I think too, has raised awareness of this. That night though, there were arrests of some of the protesters and the images were just shocking. I mean, they were absolutely heart-wrenching. Women being arrested for protesting that they canceled the vigil and all this stuff. So it's really messy, but I think that, I would have hoped that she would have worn a mask just because to keep herself safe.
Yeah. I know.
But then I'm like, did she get the vaccine? And we just haven't heard yet. So,
well, I think it's more, I think that what I was reading is also the protocol, especially when you're outdoors, is a lot, more laid back in the UK. But it's bizarre.
And then one last quick update from the Queen. So the Queen Zoomed with kids and scientists 3 days after the Oprah interview for British Science Week. She was able to look at pictures of Mars. They did like a little slideshow. She was asked during the video call about the Russian cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin, the first man in space, who she actually met in 1961. And she was asked what he was like. And she made everyone laugh by replying he was just Russian. She also said that she was glad that a meteor didn't hit anybody when it fell on a town recently in England. And I mean, this was a bright kind of light spot in a heavy week, but I also think it was kind of just a distraction.
Well, honestly, all I can think is, man, duty calls for the queen, right? It's like you think about what's in the background of her brain, you know, while on this Zoom. It's like her husband, Prince Philip, is still in the hospital at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Oprah interview is very much having massive repercussions on the family. William's making a casual comment that he shouldn't have made. And she is very much the royal show must go on. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. And she has the sweetest little bye at the end that's like all of us.
She's definitely proficient in Zoom. We applaud her efforts there. All right, well, moving on, Mother's Day in the UK, always kind of a delightful surprise. It's, I guess, also the perfect distraction from the Oprah interview in a lot of ways. I feel like there's been so much royal news, as always is the case, but it is bizarre in that sort of, in the background with that only a week after the Oprah interview aired to have all these posts about Mother's Day. But from Kate and William, they shared cards from George, Charlotte, and Louis in memory of Princess Diana for William. And I think that this was interesting just because it was something that their caption revealed they do every year. I thought that was really sweet. That
was really sweet,
Yeah, because it's a nice way to acknowledge Diana's presence in their lives and in their dad's lives. You know, I think that must be very important to their family. I'm assuming that first illustration that is very impressive is by George. What do you think? The one with like the birds and it's like the tree and everything. It's very well done.
Oh yeah,
because then his little note follows, and then you have Charlotte's note that says "Papa is missing you," and they also refer to her as Granny Diana, which
I
is
thought that
very
was
sweet.
so cute, Granny Diana.
And Charlotte's handwriting, like all the kids' handwriting, is pretty impressive.
You know what it made me think of is reading about Elizabeth and Margaret and how they were schooled together, and Margaret's 4 years younger and had to learn all the lessons that Elizabeth was learning. So she was way ahead of her kind of grade school level. And I feel like Charlotte is the same thing with George, where they're being taught by the same person and they're learning the same things. And so Charlotte is actually way ahead of the curve. This handwriting is incredible. It's as good as George's, which is really, really something.
It's amazing. And then I loved Louis following it up, and it seemed like that was potentially more finger painting, which also on the 1 year anniversary of the pandemic made me think back to Kate's Pinterest craft with the rainbow where he did that. I'm like, I think Louis is pretty good at that. But yeah, I just think in general, it's the idea behind with Charlotte's note, "Papa is missing you." For me, that was heavy to read and really sad, because it makes me feel particularly reflective of the fact that Diana really is a North Star for both Harry and William. Mm-hmm. And from across the world, they are looking to her during this very volatile time, likely considering what her point of view would have been with the current events and their divide. I just think that seeing them post those cards kind of drove home that fact that, you know, Harry obviously is compared to Diana a ton in all of his actions, and William has that connection as well. So I imagine that it has to be really heartbreaking, right? Yeah. To think like, what would Diana be thinking of all of this?
Exactly. I feel like for William too, to feel like there's so many ways in which Harry has said that history is repeating itself with him, but I think William, you know, they're both her sons, and I think they would love to have her here to consult and to lean on. And I think that that's what's heartbreaking, is that I just am hoping for them to reconcile and that she'll be in their hearts when they do, because I think that that's what she would have wanted.
Mm-hmm. Sort of like the guide through that that's the ultimate purpose of them reuniting and working things out. William and Kate also shared a picture of Kate with Carol Middleton, which I thought, and a picture, I guess the kids made a cake for Kate in honor of Mother's Day, but they followed it up with a picture of Carol, who seemingly was pregnant with Pippa in that photo. I was trying to do the math on their ages, because I think Kate looked maybe about 1 to 2 years old, and we know that James was born in 1987, so it likely wasn't James if Carol is pregnant in that photo. It appeared that she was. But my immediate reaction when I saw that photo is that Carol totally had a Diana bob.
Yeah, she did. She did.
I really thought, I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, but it makes sense too. I mean, that was the style back then, but also, taking your cue from Diana. And I was reading
But also
more.
the dress feels very Diana,
It feels,
too.
the whole look feels very Diana. But this made me laugh did you read that the Diana Bob is trending for spring?
No.
Yes.
And I won't be trying it out.
I just thought I think it was Glamour in the UK said and they interviewed all these stylists saying that that's what people are asking for.
Wow. I would love
it's
to
so
see.
effortless.
I'm sure that certain people can pull it off. I cannot pull it off.
Oh, I could not. I have way too fine hair, but it made me laugh. So anyways, we also heard from Princess Eugenie, which is such a delight because I feel like she's been lost, probably to her benefit, that she doesn't have to, she can just kind of enjoy those early months of motherhood in the privacy of her own home and without the limelight. But we saw a picture of August on a blanket next to daffodils. And I just loved his little pants, which I looked up are from the English Beagle, but the little whale print.
They're so cute.
They're
so cute.
still available to buy. And the little bunny booties, which it seems like Eugenie has an affinity for those animal themed booties, in my opinion. But
yeah.
And then also, did you see that Eugenie is back at Frogmore Cottage? That's where they moved. Okay, so I feel like this was also something that was lost in everything with the Oprah interview. They drove home from the Portland hospital to Frogmore Cottage.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Wait, how do we know this?
People Magazine reported it. Yeah. And they said that a lot of respected publications picked it up, that's where they went straight home with August after his birth.
So that makes me wonder why they went back to move in with her parents and then are back there now. Maybe they were having something done to it.
Yeah, maybe they were having
the
some work done. It just goes to show this insane sort of, conversation. We're like, why did they leave? And then, I think that it's all just hearsay.
I liked also Fergie's post on Instagram on Mother's Day. She said, "To my mom, you were with me every day and you'd be so proud of your great grandson, August. Thank you for all you taught me and the joy you showed me." I thought that was really sweet. Her great grandson.
Yeah. Fergie's such a window into the royals world we underestimate, I feel like sometimes.
I feel the same way about James Middleton.
Yes.
Totally. In a weird, just so tangential, but I feel like everything he does, it's oh, the Middletons are doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And actually, I will say really quickly that Fergie's sort of appearance or reference in the Oprah interview about helping Meghan being like, oh, this is how you curtsy and you got this. And it just came across very, positive towards Fergie.
I'm excited about the book.
Yes. Oh my gosh, please. I can't wait. It's coming soon.
I keep forgetting and then I'll remember and I'll just start laughing to myself. Her heart for a compass.
Yes. That video is a delight. But we did also hear via Omid Scobie, who heard from a spokesperson for Harry, that he arranged for flowers to be laid at her final resting place in Althorpe on the Spencer family estate. So I think just, again, him making the effort to release a statement to acknowledge the fact that he is still there in spirit.
Yeah, that was really, really sweet. Before we adjourn the Royal Pod, here are our highs and lows.
It's time for the Royal Highs and Lows.
My low is the palace investigation into those bullying claims. The Times is reporting that an external law firm will now investigate them after the initial statement received a lot of backlash because people were like, how can your own HR department investigate your HR department? Which, makes sense. I think that it's important that they have an external person come in. That's what any company would do, I think. If we think about this as just a company that has a working and functioning HR department, you'd think that they would want someone external to look into this. So it's interesting, though, Gayle King confirmed that Harry and Meghan will not be a part of the initial inquiry on CBS this morning, even though they asked the palace to take part. So they will be left out. But like Janina said on that ITV interview, I would love to hear what they find. I think that it's going to show a different story to what a lot of the UK tabloids believe. So
yeah,
what really stinks though is the things that hang me up about this are, one, that Buckingham Palace, we have no control over what they share. I think that it's good that the external law firm will come in and do the investigating, but will we hear the final report? I don't know. And also, where is the investigation that someone told Meghan to not get help for suicidal thoughts, or that someone had questioned how dark Archie's skin would be, or that Prince Andrew was Epstein's BFF? I just think, where are those investigations? So
yeah,
that's my low.
A very open-ended question. No, yeah. I agree with all of it. My low this week is just the range of conflicting news reports. I feel like we're hearing so much from it. Royal exclusive that Harry and William are on track to attend the unveiling of Diana's statue at Kensington Palace in July. That's been scheduled. We've talked about it before. And one of the sources is claiming that a reunion is confirmed. That source is The Sun. That was one of the tabloids that was cut off by Harry and Meghan. But The Telegraph is also reporting in. They're a very respected publication, and their source is someone close to Prince Harry, who said that Harry desperately hopes to attend the event and considers it a top priority. I just feel like this interview is rock bottom for William and Harry, but we still, straight from William's mouth, we don't, and Gayle King, we really don't know the status of these conversations. So it feels like a massive leap to be able to confirm that they will be together on July 1st. So anyways,
I had news whiplash about this because it was they're not going to be there. And I was like, no. And then it was they are going to be together. And I was like, yes. It was just it was back and forth. Yeah. So it's just so, until you hear it from them,
that's why it's so valuable getting something like the Oprah interview, because it's straight from the mouths of the royals themselves.
Exactly. My high is St. Patrick's Day. It's St. Patrick's Day today that we're recording, and I am definitely craving a Guinness, even though it's 10 a.m. The Cambridges did record a St. Patrick's Day video for the government of Ireland. Also in the video, President Biden, Prime Minister Trudeau, Jacinda Ardern, they're all a part of it. I do kind of hate that they're still acting like nothing has happened, but it is kind of cute.
We're delighted to wish you all a very happy St. Patrick's Day.
How come you got that easy bit?
Well, it's a kind of cute banter, but it's come on, guys.
Yeah, in light of everything that's going on. I think that it goes along with what the Queen is doing. It's just duty above all else. That's their MO. So ending on a very major high, Prince Philip is home from the hospital. And I feel like hearing this, honestly, when we were first prepping for the episode, I was going to be like, Bueller? What's going on with Prince Philip? That's not been talked about. So it was such a relief to hear that he is officially home at Windsor Castle after being treated for an infection. He was at the hospital for 28 days, 2 different hospitals. And we heard from Charles, who popped by a pop-up vaccine clinic, that he told the press that he was thrilled that his dad was home and had already spoken to him several times. So all I can think is poor Philip and what he's likely catching up on. If he was, hopefully he was shielded from all of this while he was focusing on his health. But now I'm sure he has a lot to get up to speed on in terms of what happened with the Oprah interview.
And I feel like the Queen will lean on him for his advice in all of it too. I think that she's done that time and time again.
I'm sure Charles, all of them will. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Who knows?
I'm so thrilled that he's okay and he's out. But the pictures of him leaving the hospital.
But he but he is 99 though. He's almost 100 a couple months away.
Even just a mask, would that help to I don't know. He's old. He's very old. That's all I'll say.
Yep.
All right. Just a reminder before we close. Leave us a royal rating. Here is one. It's titled, "So Glad to Have Found This Podcast. I'm obsessed with every tidbit about the royals, so this podcast was a great find for me. The Queen and her family represent themselves with such class and kindness, and the hosts of Royally Obsessed hold themselves to the same high standards. It's such a pleasure to listen to 2 positive ladies that can give us the latest news and updates without negativity or foul language. You both are so refreshing. 5 stars from me. Thanks, Donna." Oops, without foul language. I probably am the one that's guilty of the foul language the most. I definitely just said shit in this episode, but it's fine. Sorry.
You're forgiven.
Okay. Reminder to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Follow us on Instagram at Royally Obsessed Podcast and the Facebook group. You can also follow us personally. I'm at Robbie Frito.
And I'm at RKBNYC.
And send us an email at info@gallerypodcasts.com. Till next week, God save the pod.
Her Majesties of Royally Obsessed have retired for this episode. God save the pod. And if you fancy the podcast, give Royally Obsessed the royal rating of 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram at Royally Obsessed Podcast and join our Facebook group, Royally Obsessed. Royally Obsessed is a Gallery Podcast production.
If you are thinking about snacking on anything other than Tasty Cake this summer, you are simply miscaken. A melted milkshake? Miss Cake. Crumbly, sticky s'mores? Bigger Miss Cake. Or worst of all, you resort to baking? If it's not Tasty Cake, it's a Miss Cake, because nothing satisfies like a perfectly sweet butterscotch crimpet or rich and creamy chocolate peanut butter candy cake. Tasty Cake. Accept no substitutes.